Okay, we'll just go ahead and get started. And as more people join, that's totally fine. This is being recorded and will be shared after the meeting. So welcome to today's webinar on campaigns. Today we're going to go over follow-up campaigns, the post-op campaigns, and then I will also quickly touch on custom campaigns. So first, to go to campaigns, you're going to click on this person icon here, and we'll select campaigns. You're then going to be automatically directed to the follow-up campaigns. Next, you'll see a couple different options. So under patient follow-ups, we have recall campaign, failed appointments, pre-appointment next prophy, reactivation, unscheduled treatment, canceled appointments, and pre-appointments, and then service scheduled campaign. So any of these can be set up and activated. So first, let's go to recall campaign, as this is one of the most commonly used. So from this screen, you're going to see the name of the campaign. You'll have the timing in which these messages are currently set to go out at. So right now we have it set from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And this can always be customized as well. Below that, we have a couple different tabs. So edit, messages that are scheduled, messages that have been sent, sequences, not sent, and then history. So from the edit page, this is going to be pretty much all of the information that the campaign is going to go based on. So the first thing that we're going to see is our audience. If we select edit filters, we can then see what it's being filtered by and then add any additional filters as well. So it's currently set to recall status, unscheduled recall. Patient status is active. And then we also have some tags here. So if the patient has an ask to arrive early tag, and then those patients with those tags are going to be pulled into this campaign. We can also add any additional filters if we'd like, and that would just refine our search as well. The next thing we're going to see is our follow-ups. So this is going to be the sequence of messages that get sent out to patients. So the first one is follow-up 1, and this is going to be 30 days before the recall date. If we click on this, we'll see that it's set to 30 days before, which we can always adjust this to any time frame. Below, we can then choose whether it sends an email, sends a text, and then it can also create a task. Here you can also edit your email and your text. You can send a test, and then you can also preview what the message would look like. Then we have follow-up 2. This one is set currently at 15 days before the recall date. And then for this one, as you can see, they also have create task selected. So on the 15 days before the recall date, a task will be created for an employee. It'll send an email and then it'll also send a text. Then the recall date passes, and then after that we have follow-up 3, which is going to be 15 days after that recall date. So if the patient hasn't scheduled an appointment, then they would get this following message. And then here it's set to an email and a text. And then we have follow-up 4, which is 45 days after that recall date has passed. Follow-up 5, and then follow-up 6. And once again, you can change these date ranges. You can also remove a follow-up if you don't want that many. Whatever you would like to do here, you can kind of make those adjustments and then hit save. You can also reset your templates. So if you've changed a bunch of these emails and texts and want to go back to the default messages, you can select reset templates. And you can also translate all templates using AI. The next thing we're going to review is the owner, closure, and expiration settings. So this is specifically related to tasks that get generated and created from this campaign. So based on follow-up 2 and follow-up 4, a task is going to be created on this criteria here. So if we select edit, we can leave this blank, or we can choose who this task gets assigned to, whether it's a role or an employee at the office. Next, you can set an expiration date for the task. So it's currently set at 30 days from creation. You can add closure rules. So anytime an appointment gets scheduled, the task would be closed out. You can also set this to next recall scheduled or completed if you want to be a bit more specific with the task closure. You can also add filters such as the last contacted. So if the patient was called more than 4 weeks ago or messaged more than 4 weeks ago regarding the recall and continuing care campaign, then a task would be created. And then you can also set if they have an appointment within any of these ranges, or you can set it to ignore this specific filter. Next, you can test the campaign. So if we select this, we can just select a date range, and then you can test to see which patients would get a message on this date. And then you can also test any specific actions. So then it would tell us down here in this pop-up how many emails would go out and how many texts would go out, and then how many patients are opted out as well for this particular date. Now, once we've set up and edited the campaign, we then have a couple more options here at the top. So messages scheduled is going to be any patients that are set to receive messages at any given time frame. So from these follow-ups, messages scheduled will show you which patient will receive which message. So you'll have the type of message, the recipient's name, and then the body of the message here, and then the date that that message will go out to them. Under messages sent, you'll then have any messages that have already been sent out. And then you can also view if the patient has opened it or clicked on any links that may have been in the message. Under sequences, you would see any patient that is currently under the follow-up sequence. So if someone is on, follow-up 2, they'll show up under sequences as they still have to complete the rest of the follow-ups. Under not sent, we're going to have the same information. So the type of message, whether it was a text or email, the recipient's name, and then the reason that the message was not sent. So either the patient is opted out, they don't have a phone number, or they don't have an email, or it was outside of the blackout period. And then under history, we can view any modifications that have been made to this campaign. Okay, now let's go back. So the other follow-up campaigns that we can send are going to be similar to the recall campaign in just the way that they're set up, but they're going to be for different purposes. So the failed appointments campaign, if we select edit filters, we can see this is going to target anyone that has a canceled appointment that has been marked as failed and not reappointed. And then the patient doesn't have an appointment within 3 months. And then the follow-ups are going to look a little bit different as well. So it'll have the canceled appointment date, and then the first follow-up will be 1 day after that canceled appointment date. And then follow-up 2 will be 14 days after, and it's currently set to just create a task. So there won't be necessarily outreach from the campaign, but a task will be created for someone in the office to follow up with that patient. And then similar to the recall campaign, We can edit our emails and texts. Don't have to be one there. Preview it, make any changes, and then save. And then once again, we can reset templates and we can translate all the templates. And then the owner, closure, and expiration settings are the same, but for the canceled and failed appointment campaign. And we can make any changes here. So change the expiration, whether it's for any appointment scheduled or any treatment specific appointment, and so forth. And then again, you can test these campaigns and perform any actions for a particular date. And then the messages scheduled will be the same, messages sent. Anyone that is on this follow-up sequence for this specific campaign, those not sent messages, and then the history as well. And then whenever you want to activate these, you can just activate that there, and then those messages will start sending. From this page as well, you'll be able to see how many messages have been sent for that campaign, any appointments that were scheduled from the messages that were sent from this campaign, any potential revenue, and then under actions, you can edit it, which will take you to this screen. And then we can also duplicate it or copy the campaign. For follow-ups, though, we don't really recommend copying or duplicating it. It won't necessarily work the same, but we can create a custom campaign, which I'll touch on as well. But typically for these, you just kind of want to keep them to the criteria that's already set here so that they work to the best of their ability and get the outreach that we need for those patients. Then we have our reactivation campaign. So most of the criteria is different here. So this is going to be just any patient that's active, since for the reactivation, you're trying to get anyone that hasn't been in a while. So it would go by last visit date, and then the follow-up would be, for this one, it's set to a year after they haven't been in a year, and then they'd start getting messages based off of that. Unscheduled treatment campaign. This one is set for any treatments that are planned that haven't been scheduled, but you can also narrow this down to specific service codes or specific providers at the office. And then this one's going to go based off of the treatment plan date and then follow up from there. Next is our canceled appointments campaign. So this one is similar to the failed appointments, but the criteria is slightly different. So it's going to look for those canceled appointments. And then we can always change that no appointment within time frame as well. And then this one will be the canceled appointment date, and then follow-up will be 1 day after, and then 14 days after. For pre-appointments, this one is looking for services completed. So in this case, the service codes that have been selected are this periodontal evaluation and the periodontal maintenance procedures. So if any of those services were completed and then any other services have not been scheduled in the next 270 days, those patients would get this email. So it would be the service completed date, and then the follow-ups would go based off of that. And again, just remember, you can always add follow-ups. You can change the dates for these. So you can customize it as much as you'd like in terms of the follow-up. Then we have some general campaigns, so birthday wishes. If, you just want this to remind those, send a message to those patients that have had a birthday, this would be only email. Let's see if I can view it. If we were somewhere around here. There we go. So it would just be a kind of generic birthday email, but you can edit this to be however you'd like. We'd click save and then we'd activate this, and then the messages would go out based on the patient's birthday. And then we have some holiday campaigns as well. So right now, I think Thanksgiving is the only one you might see on your end, but we will potentially have some other holidays available soon. And then for post-op campaigns, these are going to be email only, but this will be based on any services that are completed. So, for example, if a patient comes in and gets a crown, then we have it set here for the messages to go out once again from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., but you can always customize these. And then the services completed would be, it can be adjusted to select whichever ones you'd like, but it looks like we're using these 4 codes in this one specifically. And so anytime someone gets one of these services completed, then they will get an email. And the first message is always going to go right after the appointment is completed. And then you can send a second message as well, and you can adjust when that goes out, up to 14 days after the appointment. And then the same thing as the follow-up campaigns, we'll have messages scheduled, messages sent, any patient that shows up on the sequence, those not sent messages, and then the history of any changes to this campaign. And then that'll be the same for all of these. And then it's just gonna, as you can see, it's gonna have those services completed and the codes will just be different based on the category. So composite fillings will be different. And so forth. And then you also have the option of creating your own. So if we click that, it'll take us to custom post-operation campaign. And then you can set whatever code. So if this is for ortho trays, you can send this to anyone that got ortho trays. So you'll just kind of pick any service code that you'd like and then tailor your email to that service. And we have some pre-made templates, and you can always edit any of these as well. So like if it's a root canal, we have this message here. You can select that and then make any adjustments as needed. Change any of the verbiage or remove sections. It is up to you to make this your own. Any questions so far on follow-up campaigns or the post-op campaigns? Okay. One thing I did want to touch on when it comes to the time of day that the messages are sent, even though this says 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., like I mentioned, you can customize this further. But just do keep in mind that under email and text settings, it is also going to follow the blackout periods that have been set. So in this example, we have messages to stop going out at 7 p.m. and then end at 10. If I change this here to say, messages stop at 8, or better yet, messages will stop at 6 p.m. and then start at 9. That's going to update here, but then I can change it here as well. So this is going to be what we take into consideration, but then you can always customize it further from the actual campaign itself. Okay. Now let's touch on custom campaigns. So here is going to be all of your custom campaigns that are created. These are going to be more personalized and tailored messages that get sent out to patients. One thing that's important to note, though, if you're going to send out a custom campaign, we recommend email, especially if it's going to be a larger audience of more than 500 patients, because in a custom campaign, there is a 500 daily text limit. You won't get charged extra for this. It doesn't send more than 500 for the day. So, for example, I know a lot of people and practices right now are sending out end of year insurance emails. So to do that, the first thing you're gonna do is select Add New. You'll name your campaign. You can then select your category. For this, we'll just leave it at, let's see. We can do continuing care. Then we'll select what kind of message we want. So if you're sending it, like I said, to more than 500 patients, recommend an email. You can always do email and text, but not every patient is going to receive that text. So let's say I just want to send an email. I will select email only, and then I will search for my template. So we do have a pre-made template for end of year insurance benefits. It's going to be under the Finance and Insurance tab. We'll select end of year insurance benefits. Click use, and then you can just go over this message, make any edits, tailor it to your practice's needs, and hit save. Then the next thing I'm going to do is pick my audience. So as we saw with the follow-up campaigns, it kind of has a couple filters already set, but we can make additional changes. So with the current filters, we currently have 3,036 patients selected. Now, if I want to remove last contacted, I would select that. Now I just have the patient is in active status. Now, since I am sending something about insurance benefits, my best filter is probably going to fall under insurance. So let's say I want to send this to those that have insurance. Okay, so now my audience has dropped to 2,659. Let's say I want to go a little bit further and select some specific insurances. I'll click primary insurance. And now I'll select a couple that we use. Okay, let's say I just selected those 3 insurances. So Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Florida, and Aetna. Now you can see that my audience has drastically gone down to 249 patients. Now let's say I want to do primary benefits remaining, since that is what this email is about. Now I can choose how much benefits this patients have left. So now if I do greater or less or equal to 900, now my list has dropped to 218. Now you can add any filters that you'd like. And the main thing to just be aware of is what this audience is going to drop to. So adding more filters is going to make this even a smaller window. Taking away some of these filters might give you more options. It's really just about playing around to see what your audience is going to look like and narrow it down to what is going to benefit you the most. Specifically for an insurance campaign like this, you don't really need to send it to all of those patients if they don't have benefits remaining or whatever the case may be for your specific message that you're trying to get out. So now let's say I've selected these filters. I'll say I'm done here. And now I want to send it to these 218 patients. If I select fine tune, it'll show me all of the patients that are on here and then their information, their balances, when they were last seen, whether they can receive email and text messages. So you can always go through this and you can even, maybe you don't want to send it to Jacqueline because she came in recently or whatever the case may be, you can always unselect some of these patients. And then once you've done that, you can always save. And now your list is a little bit smaller even. And then once you're ready to send this off, you can either save it as a draft, send it immediately, or schedule it for a later date. And then the one thing to keep in mind though, when it does come to fine tuning your audience, if you plan on saving this as a draft, make sure you're not kind of going through and fine tuning your audience ahead of time. You will want to fine tune your audience right before you send it. I did have someone recently who had gone through and removed a bunch of patients, saved it as a draft, and then came back and it was back to the original set of patients. So just keep that in mind. You'll want to make sure you are fine-tuning your audience before you send your campaign. So we'll save this as a draft. And now you can see on our one-time custom campaigns page, it's set as a draft. So I can come back to it, review it, make any necessary changes, and then just send it off when I'm ready. And then below that here, you'll also see any of your campaigns that were previously sent. So in this case, we have some couple duplicates of review requests and whatnot, but anything that you create and send will appear here. Some other examples of what these one-time custom campaigns are used for is closures. So if you have just maybe a holiday closure or you're closed due to an emergency, you have no electricity at the practice, anything like that, you can create a custom campaign from your schedule. So let's see. Oh, not sure if I'll find a date with any patients on it, but you can always click create campaign here. And then this is going to pop up. Let's see. Okay, let's say I just put myself on the schedule. Okay. Well, that did not work as expected, but either way, if we click create campaign from a specific date on the schedule, it will then take us to our custom campaign and it will only be selecting the patients on this schedule so that you can just send a quick email or text out to these patients, letting them know, hey, don't come in today. We'll have to reschedule your appointment as we're having an issue at the office or there's bad weather, whatever the case may be that you're trying to set this campaign for. And then once you've sent it off, it'll show up here as well. So that is what custom campaigns are good for. And then up here at the top as well, since we have some time, you'll be able to view all of the email templates that we have created for you to use. So you can kind of go through all of these categories and then select any of these default messages and then make any changes as well. So you see if we're doing like a closed office one, you can do weather alerts and plenty of options. Same with the SMS templates. Messaging is almost the same, just in a shorter format for those messages or the text message. Any questions about custom campaigns? Okay. Well, I will be sending out this webinar, sorry about that. And then as well as some articles on custom campaigns and follow-up campaigns that may benefit you for creating these. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.